Hey everyone, I'm Kristen, the cross stitching runner, and welcome to my channel. I want to say a big hello and welcome to all new and returning viewers, and if by chance you've stumbled across this channel is all about cross stitch with a bit of life stuff thrown in. And today is Friday, the 11th of October. I have the apartment to myself for at least half of today, so I just want to make the most of being able to film in a spot that is just a little bit different. I'm not hidden away in my little hole in the wall that has no windows or any form of natural light or fresh air. And it is Friday for starters. It is wonderful. So, this episode will be a little bit shorter, or hopefully significantly shorter, compared to the last time we caught up. There was a lot going on, and if you had by chance made it to the end of that episode, thank you. I greatly appreciate it. This episode, I'm catching you up on just some of the projects that I've worked on over the last couple of weeks. I have a finish, a SAF, a start and a finish, and a little bit of progress on at least two projects that I've been enjoying working on. So let's get on to the first finish that I have. And if you by chance watched last episode, I had been working on my first Quaker, and it is called, by memory, the Black Cat Sampler, and I've nicknamed it the Cat Quaker. And closer up on inspection, this is the finish. It was stitched on 25 count Zweigart fabric that is printed on this side, and it is just a grey on the back. This particular piece was a lot more fun to stitch than I had initially anticipated. I've had a skeptical is probably the first word that comes to mind, but may not be the best word that I can use for this. I've admired Quakers and samplers from a distance for many years, and there's been some that have piqued my interest, but not enough to raise out and go, yes, I must work on this. I must. This one was actually out of the 2024 Just Cross Stitching's magazine Halloween special, and you can see this one on the cover. And I have used mostly cottage garden threads for this, with the exception of the black for the cats, which was the DMC 310, and the white using B5200. Otherwise, all of the other colours are cottage garden threads. And if you follow me on Instagram, or you've seen some of my pieces on Instagram, you'll see the threads that I used with this as well. I have trimmed this down a little bit because this fabric actually, prior to trimming it, is about a meter in height. It was nearly the full height of myself. I apologize for the croaky voice. It is actually early in the morning. I have not spoken to anyone except for now, and my voice is still waking up. We'll get there. It'll be totally okay. The next piece that I have to share with you is my SAF, my start and finish. And this is the piece. Again, I stitched this out of the when I can speak, the Just Cross Stitch Magazine 2024 Halloween special. And that is the piece that I stitched. As we can see, there's a lot of personalizations. Some of them are intentional in the sense that I gave it color. I really wanted to use a lot of the variegated threads that I have in my stash, and I think the only non-variegated color in this piece is the white for the ghosts, using the DMC 5200. I chose to not fully fill in the moon because I wanted to highlight this fabric that I dyed back in perhaps 2019, maybe 2020. It is stitched on a 28 count linen, and it was initially white, and I wanted to try my hand at doing the tie-dyed mottled fabric. That there are so many amazing people out there who do this for a living to an extent. So this was just my hand doing the mottled stitching, not mottled stitching, the mottled dyeing, the tie-dye dyeing. I have used this for a couple of other pieces, and the good thing is there's enough space on the fabric for some other stitching as well. Now, the other thing I want to note with this piece is that I can't count. The I just can't count. That's the best way I can put it. I had stitched the border first and I didn't count far enough, which meant that I needed to get creative and personalize it to help with some of the pieces fit in. I just want to apologize if my microphone is picking up some background noises. Where I live, about uh, half a block away, if that. So we're talking about 500 meters away at the most. There is some construction happening, and that's where we're getting some drilling noises happening. It's also about 7:15 in the morning here in Australia, and it is a time when some people are starting their commute to work, which means that we also have some trucks driving past as well. Because of the construction nearby, there's also some still steelworks or a port. I want to say steelwork. Actually, I can legitimately say steelworks because a couple of kilometres south of where I am, we have Port Kembla, and that's where we have a lot of the ships come in who are importing cars and exporting coal or other materials to I don't know when. And I can also legitimately say that we've got steelworks in the sense that Blue Scope Steel, a big Aussie company, it has one of their offices or sites a couple of kilometres south of here. So we've got it all happening here in Wollongong. Anyway, let's go back to the actual stitching side of things. And the next thing that I have to share with you is a page finish and a page start. So last time we caught up, I had talked a little bit about a project that I'm slowly working on called Trick or Treat by Randal Spangler, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. And this is roughly what it will look like when it's done. I'll see if I can get this to face around a slightly different way so I don't get as much glare. And of course, having it go around a slightly different way, my fingers are pressing all of the buttons. So that's roughly what it will look like when it's done. And the the chart that I'm using is a little different to the cover page, which means that I will hopefully be able to get away with stitching this on 16 or 18 count Ada. Now, the page finish wasn't really much of a finish in a sense that I may have needed to stitch perhaps 100, maybe 200 stitches at the most to complete the page. And I've now been able to move on to the second last page for the top row. The really cool thing is that I've been able to finish off this little bit here for the the roof of the castle, the house, and a little bit of the background here. We've been able to, as we can see here, start to see the uh, last part of the roof of the castle. And I'm looking forward to moving across, and over here will be the witch flying across the moon. So I'll just bring this across again, just as a reminder. So we've got a bit of the turret. We'll have a bit of the turret of, again, part of the house, castle, and as we can see as well, the moon where we see the witch flying across. That's where a lot of the stitching is going to be. I'm hoping that when we next catch up, I'll have a bit more work done on this piece, noting that when we next catch up, it will be a lot closer to Halloween. Now, the next piece that I have to share with you is a mashup of a quote and a picture that I came across on the internet. And it's called Pisces. And the quote says, Pisces, not everyone gets the same version of me. One person will tell you I'm a beautiful soul. Another will tell you I'm a cold-hearted asshole. Believe both. I act accordingly. And I'm having fun finding the cover page. I'll be right back. Okay, so this is the roughly what it's going to look like, and I'm happy that the quote isn't going to be taking center stage for this piece, because what really drew me to this was the artwork. And sadly, I'm not sure who the artist is, and I hope that over time I can do a reverse image search or something very similar to find out who the artist is, so I can give them the proper acknowledgement and kudos and all the positive vibes towards them, and just acknowledge their beautiful artwork. That's it. This is where I'm up to. Now, I focused on stitching most of the threads that had been loose over on the side here. And once that was done, I moved on to the DMC color of 924, which is where we now see some of the stitching happening over near the center here. And I've then moved down towards the bottom where we see the word believe and filling in a bit of the blue there. Now, I know that the Pisces symbol is going to take up a large part of the piece, and I'm thankful that I'm now at the stage where if I need a break from 3808, then I can start working on some of the other colours of the Pisces fish that are swimming in the two different directions. And it's what drew me to the piece and wanting to chart it the way that it is, because of the beautiful colours that we see for the fish. Now, the next piece that I have to share with you is actually a model stitch that I'm doing. So I don't have the cover page for you, but it is something that I want to share with you, because I've done enough to be able to show that, hey, this is what I'm doing. It is my chart, which is where I feel that I can get away with sharing with you my progress. And this is where I'm at so far. I am stitching this on 28 count linen, stitching 2 over 2 using DMC threads, and eventually it is going to say I can and I will. Part of the reason why this channel is called the Cross Stitching Runner is that I run when I can. I stitch every day, run when I can, and I sadly haven't been able to run as often as I would like. I am very, very slowly recovering from an injury on my right heel. For as long as I can remember, in primary school it started. I have a heel spur, which is a calloused growth, a bit of bone, for the best way of describing, on the back of my right heel. So instead of having what looks like a normal looking back of my foot, uh, it doesn't look normal. It looks somewhat deformed, and it's got an extra lump on the back of the foot, which can make life challenging when my muscles are feeling quite tight. It means that I limp around a little bit. My movement doesn't flow the way that it should when I'm walking or running, or if I have the opportunity to run. But the idea behind I can and I will is a bit of a motivation thing that I sometimes try to use when I am able to run, to encourage myself to to keep moving forward, to keep pushing on and achieving the goal that I've set for that particular run. That said, I think the quote or phrasing, I can and I will, can be applied to all aspects of our lives, which I think is pretty cool. So when this piece is done and ready for sale and so forth, I will definitely be keeping you all in the loop, and it could end up even being a piece that I hopefully enjoy stitching over and over and over again and using different colors in different places to keep it interesting for myself and hopefully be appealing to anyone who may want to purchase the finished piece to give to that person in their life who is perhaps perceived by some a little bit of a nutter who enjoys running or is needing that motivation to put the shoes on and go out for that walk if it's possible, or move in some way, shape and form or form, or even just having that phrasing of I can and I will, having that determination to say that I'm going to push through this difficult bit of work or difficult part of life. That is pretty much the premise of this piece. So I hope that you're enjoying it. Now, the next thing that I have to share with you isn't much in the sense that if I'll just be sharing with you pieces of fabric, but I just want to acknowledge that the frog came and sat with me for a little while. Now, I was thinking, oh, yes, I'm going to be clever. And I'll flip through some of the Halloween magazines that I have, and I'll pick out some of the smalls, and just based on the design area, if it's 5 inches by 5 inches, it should fit on some of the squares here. Now, this is a huge bit of what I'm dubbing Afghan quilt fabric, in the sense that it's got these 5 inch by 5 inch squares on it that is woven in a way that looks like 14 count fabric. So my logical brain is thinking, well, it doesn't really matter if it's 28 count, 32 count, 14 count, whatever. If the design area is 5 inch by 5 inch, my stitching brain thought I should be able to stitch that 5 inch by 5 inch design area onto here. Now I got about halfway through a piece when I came to appreciate and realize that it wasn't going to fit. The design was for the finished piece to measure 5 inch by 5 inch if it was stitched on 28 count fabric. It was a good learning curve. Now, hopefully, I have the cover page with me of what it was going to look like. Bear with me, I'll find it. Okay, now I was super keen to stitch this on the Afghan quilt, appreciating, especially now looking at it through the camera onto the screen, and especially talking with you about the odd stitching brain that I have. It was never going to fit. Not on the 14 count 5 inch by 5 inch. Noting that this particular piece is out of the 2024 Just Cross Stitch Halloween special, noting that for some odd reason I've fallen in love with a lot of the pieces in this edition. So it is what it is. Now, going back to the Magic Beans Cafe, I do want to acknowledge that the recommendations for the fabric floss and so forth for this is that yes, the design area is 5 inch by 5 inch. Stitch count, which I chose to ignore, was 70 high by 70 wide, and that this particular piece was stitched on 28 count linen. Okay, that's where several mistakes were made, but they were mistakes that I needed to learn by doing. Now, with all of that in mind, noting that that piece was stitched on some beautiful pink fabric, This I have in my stash. I have had in my stash for several years, and I know that this is 28 count linen, or actually perhaps it even looks a little bit like even weave, but on close inspection it is linen. Now I did actually use some of this fabric for a Biscornu pincushion that was by Tiny Modernist, and I'll go get it. So this is the Biscornu that I stitched using the pattern by Tiny Modernist. And I do acknowledge that this Biscornu is looking not quite like a Biscornu, because when I had first finished this, I didn't have a tiny enough button with me to put into the center to give it that dimple in the middle. I have since purchased the buttons that I need to give it the proper dent and dimple that the centerpiece needs. I've just been super lazy and haven't done it yet. But I will get there. It's on the to-do list. So noting that I still have quite a lot of fabric left over, this is where I'm thinking that I could still stitch the Magic Coffee Beans cafe on here. I think the colours that have been chosen for that particular piece will be absolutely beautiful. So I'll just get the chart again, or pattern again rather, cover page. Okay. So number 62. Just bring it up. Hopefully the camera will focus. But if not, hopefully either this year, next year, the next few years, I'll make a start. So, as a result of me being an umpty and having a slightly different stitcher brain of logic, I actually haven't started stitching anything on this. I know that it had been a plan to actually do that, and I do have one pattern in mind that I know would work beautifully on one of these 5 by 5 inch 14 count pieces, and it's a mummy that's wrapped up in its fabric. So I know that the colours in that would work beautifully. The challenge is then finding other pieces that are 5 by 5 inch measurement, and that can fit on a 14 count size, which is to an extent, as my brain and the cogs tick over in the head, I think will be an awesome challenge for myself to either find bits that I want to stitch on, noting that I'm also seeing a chart on the table near where I'm sitting, where I've even potentially said in plans in the last episode that I could stitch the smalls onto those squares. The wind's been taken out of my sails a little bit. The confidence has been punched a little bit, sadly. So I will get there. I've got plenty of time, plenty of resources at my fingertips of things that I can use for stitching and such. So it may even be a challenge for myself. I think what I was saying before, where I can even design myself running themed stuff or anything. It doesn't have to be the entire fabric that it's made as a quilt thing, noting that this thing is huge. I'm not going to unfold it because just too much fabric. So, noting that this is a short episode, I just want to say thank you for your time of spending with me, and I hope that when we next catch up, I'll have some more really cool starts, maybe some finishes, but most likely some progress on existing projects. And I'll catch you next time. See ya.